All right, good morning everyone. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Perfect. So in a moment I will introduce our featured speaker today, and she is incredible. I had an opportunity to listen to her speak this past month for a suicide prevention event, and so I'll be introducing Ashley here in a moment, but I wanted to take a minute to introduce myself and talk a little bit about 988 and maybe give some information that would be helpful, or encourage some questions, or maybe bring up some ways that you might be able to help someone you know. So my name is Levi Van Dyke. I'm the Executive Director of Behavioral Health at Volunteers of America, Western Washington. Volunteers of America, Western Washington is one of 3 988 centers in the state of Washington. So 988 is the newer suicide prevention and crisis line number. Hopefully some folks have heard about that. Maybe a little crowd participation, hands of people that have heard of 988. So we have a few. All right. Well, the goal is to really increase the information that everyone has around 988 and make sure that people are familiar and comfortable with using it, because it really is a great resource. So 988, in its name, is a suicide and crisis lifeline. You do not have to be suicidal to call 988. So we all have to deal with a lot of heavy stuff. There's a lot of things going on in the world. We get lonely. We have times where we're in emotional distress, and 988 can help with those things. So you don't have to wait until you're suicidal. It doesn't have to be for for you yourself either. If you know someone, you have a friend, a parent, a loved one, anyone that needs help, or you need information on them maybe to better help them, or you have questions about them struggling and not knowing what to do, then please reach out. What to expect when you're calling, texting, or chatting 988, since it's kind of a new service. It's been around for a little over a year. Prior to July 16th of 2022, it was the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So that was the 1-800-273-TALK number. That's a long number to remember, so we're fortunate to have 988 now. When you call 988, you'll have a few options. So you'll hear a number 1 option for the Veterans Crisis Line, number 2 option for the Spanish sub-network. Since for now a year, number 3 is the LGBTQI plus youth sub-network, and we're excited about that. That's a national network, but at our center, we're one of the chat text providers for the LGBTQI plus youth sub-network. And something that is only available through 988 in Washington State is the Native and Strong Lifeline. It's an Indigenous-only crisis line. It's staffed by Native counselors, and there's really a focus on more inclusion, more culturally aware crisis intervention, particularly with an Indigenous population that's at higher suicide risk than many others. So some things that have changed over the years, well, we've had those additional resources come in, way more capacity, way more staff. So I know I mentioned that I'm from Volunteers of America. None of our staff are volunteers though. All of our crisis counselors at 988, both at our center and the other centers in the state, are all professional staff. They're all professional crisis counselors that are ready to help. So when you call in, you have those options. You can chat, you can text. If you just put 988 alone in your phone and Google it, it'll pop up with buttons right there that'll get you to any of those options, so you can quickly go there. I want to make sure that everyone knows too that this is confidential, it's free. You don't have to worry about giving information, you don't have to give your name or anything like that. So we really try to make sure that we're creating a safe space for everyone, and a space where people feel comfortable getting the help they need when they're maybe struggling and in the worst moment of their life. So I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable reaching out and knows that it is a safe place. So what it's looked like in the last year, just real briefly, is we've had an increase nationally from 2 million to 5 million contacts. So we know that so far 988 is working. We know from kind of our informal poll here in the room that maybe not everyone's familiar with 988 though, and we saw that kind of nationally at the 1 year mark. 4 out of 5 people still aren't familiar with 988. So So we know we have a lot of work to do as far as marketing and information, but eventually we want to make sure that everyone knows 988. Just like people might be familiar with 911, we want to make sure that if you're in emotional distress or have a crisis, you're reaching out there to get a behavioral health intervention and response. So, we've had increases, we have a lot of great things happening, but we know we have more work to do. We know there's pieces that could be included. This past month, the national network just included video phone options with American Sign Language. We have a lot of interpreter service options, but we know we need to keep building and making things better, and you can expect to see that happen. But happy to answer questions after things over, and I'll also have someone here with some materials that everyone can pick up and keep for yourselves or hand out to others. But just really encourage you to check 988 out as a resource. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the featured speaker, Ashley McGirt. She is a speaker, author, and a therapist, and just an incredible person with lots of great insight to share with you today. So very, very pleased to welcome you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. I talk to youth like you all over the world, and the past couple years, it's been on a Zoom screen, which initially, this was gonna be on Zoom, so I was happy when they said, you can come in person. So I'm like, yay, I get to be here and see y'all live and in the flesh. This is me. When I was 8 years old, I grew up not too far from here, and I put this picture up here because this sparked a time in my life when I really began to struggle with mental health. A year later, my grandmother would pass and the trajectory of my life would change. So you heard a little bit about me. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a therapist. I specialize in trauma, specifically racial trauma, so I really look at the impact that racism has on our mental health and our overall well-being, and also grief and loss, because it is through the loss of my grandmother and through my grief that I got into this work. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. But when I was struggling with depression, there wasn't anyone who looked like me at a time when I needed someone who looked like me to really understand what it was that I was struggling with and what I was going through. And so I am the daughter of Stacy, who is the daughter of Dolores, who is the daughter of Marietta. And I show their images on this screen before you because they are the women who impacted my mental health and well-being in a multitude of ways. And they had impermeable strength. They were strong in so many ways, not because they didn't get sad, they didn't cry, they didn't struggle. It was because of those things that I see so much strength in these women and how they developed my overall health. And so, as I show these images, I want you to think about the people in your life, the women, the men, non-binary individuals who are impacting your mental health and well-being, whether it be from a positive lens or a negative lens. We all got cell phones, right? Raise your hand if you got a cell phone. That's everyone in here. So, when we're done here, I want you to look at your cell phone and look at the last 5 people you text, the last 5 people you called, and what energy resonates from those conversations. Do you feel joy? Do you feel drained? Are they exciting you? Are they helping you? Are they asking you for things? How does your body feel when you see that call? Do you light up? I'm excited, I can't wait to hear from them. Or, oh, here they go, calling me again. So really, really think about who it is that you're giving your energy to, who you're talking to, who you're in conversation with. This whole talk is really about conversation and community and connection. Yeah, we said suicide prevention and awareness, mental health, but all of that comes back to connection, who we're in community with. And the measure of any society is how it treats its youth. When I think of this, I think of the phrase Kasirian Injera. This is the traditional greeting among the Maasai people. And I had the pleasure of spending time with the Maasai tribe this summer on my trip to Zanzibar. This was them trying to teach me their traditional chant, their dance. I'm not a dancer, so it did not work out well at all. But I bring up the Maasai people because the Maasai people are known as great warriors. They are revered. And so when I was walking all around Africa, it was a great privilege, a great honor to be among the Maasai. And what I learned about the Maasai is they really value their youth. And that is why they say Kasirian Injera. Because they take so much pride in their youth, like you. Like us adults used to be, we all came here to be through our youth. And some of their biggest challenges and their biggest joys are based on how the youth are. And so I want you to think about that. How are you? Because here's a tribe, they were fearsome warriors, they still are. People fear this tribe, yet they value children more than anything. So the one tribe that takes value in children, and it's the largest tribe in Africa, they value peace, they value safety, and it's extremely important to protect the young. And when the young are doing good, that's how you know life is good. So how are y'all? Y'all doing good? I hear some yeses. We've been going through a lot. Raise your hand if you've been through a pandemic. Every hand should be raised, right? I heard, woo! Pandemic was rough on a lot of us, especially the young people. Gyms were closed, schools were closed, not to mention exacerbated racial stressors. You know, all of the things, we ran out of toilet paper. Like, really? What was y'all doing? And so this impacted our mental health, especially as young people, because there were so many things that were outside of your control, even outside of my control as an adult. There was so much unknown, and we're coming out of that, and we're coming back to a time to where we can connect and we can gather. And so that's why I bring up the Maasai, because they use the greeting Jambo, which is how are you, and then you respond Jambo if you're doing fine, or Kasirian Injera, how are the children? And like I said, some of us are not doing well. Many of the young people, you know, we're seeing images of war, people slain, young people being murdered. There was just a shooting not too far from here at a daycare that my friend actually owns. And so when we hear about these things, that impacts us. It causes what's called vicarious trauma or secondary trauma. We may not know these people in another country, but just seeing them, seeing the images, hearing those things impacts us. It impacts our body, and it has a visceral reaction on us. And a lot of my work is based on cultural epistemology. Does anyone know what that is? Can't really see. Cultural epistemology. Nobody? Okay. Well, what it is, it's the philosophy of knowledge. I think there's going to be an announcement. Okay, I'm good? Okay, perfect. So essentially what it is how do you know a thing to be a thing? How do you know that you're well? When I ask Kasirian and Jera, how are the children? How do you know to say how you are? Typically, from a Eurocentric lens, how we know a thing to be a thing is there's facts, there's data, but from a cultural lens, There's symbiology, there's movement, there's rhythm. I know a thing because I know it in my gut. But I can't measure what's in my gut. That's not necessarily evidence-based. So that's why the work that I do is always from a cultural lens and questioning and asking, okay, how do we know these evidence-based practices impact other individuals who may not necessarily be represented in those tests or in those research? But through cultural epistemology, I look at how we greet and how we connect with one another. And in African American communities, which I'm a part of, Latinx communities, the African community that I visited this summer while I was in Africa, you see head nods, you see handshakes. It's essential that you acknowledge me, that you see me. Because if you don't see me, how can I see myself? So it could look something like this.
On the surface, the dap does look like any everyday handshake, but the dap is a gesture of solidarity. It's not just a handshake.
Just some ways to greet one another and how we do it differently in different cultures, whether it's dapping, it's head nods, different things of that nature. So if in my culture it is essential that you acknowledge me and you're happy when you see me and you show up, you say hello, you say Jumbo, Kasirian and Jera, what up girl? I see you. I see what you did right there. In some type of way, if you don't acknowledge me, what do you think that does to my mental health? If you walk right past me in the hallway, if I show up at school, you're a teacher, you're an educator, you're a student, you're a colleague. And I get it, we're all busy. We're all going through the day-to-days of life. We're just trying to get to class, we're just trying to get to the next thing. But we have to slow down. We can't walk right past one another and not see one another. So as we move forward in this conversation of connectivity, which is how we stay well through connecting with one another, we can't get well in isolation. We get well through being with one another. So I want to encourage you and ask you to see each other and acknowledge one another, because greetings are an essential part of connection. So when you leave here, I want you to greet 5 different people. I see some people shaking hands right now. I see you. See, even with these bright lights. So again, when you leave out of here, continue those greetings, continue those handshakes. But culturally here in America and throughout most of the world, we are programmed to greet each other with, hi, how are you? Followed by blanket statements of, I'm fine, I'm okay. When someone says anything other than I'm fine, we begin to scream and squirm in our seats and our bodies and our personhood, because we haven't been taught, we haven't been trained how to respond to anything other than I'm fine. You know what, I'm not well. Have you ever tried to tell someone that you aren't okay? I heard someone say yes. Have you ever tried to tell someone that you aren't well? And they're like, you're good, but you're like, but I'm not. And they're like, you got this. And you're like, but I don't. And they're like, keep going. And you're like, how many of you know that feeling? I see some hands. When you're trying to tell someone you're not okay, but yet they're saying, you've got this, you're okay. This is why so many people who are feeling anything but fine don't feel like saying. They don't feel like telling it because of our reactions. So we have to pay attention to how we react when someone tells us they're not okay, that they're not well. Don't dismiss those feelings. Don't be like, you're good, you got this. And it seems like we're encouraging them, but we're not hearing them. And it's okay that they're not okay. And we have to sit with them in that. Brene Brown says we have to get comfortable sitting with folks in the darkness. But so many of us are compelled to turn the light on. But no, we're not going to turn the light on. I can't see all your faces right now, but that's okay. We're going to sit in the darkness. And we're going to get through the darkness together with one another in community, because I got you and we got each other. And when it comes to suicide prevention and awareness, we can start by simply asking the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about harming yourself? Sometimes we think when we ask these questions, it's going to spark the individuals to do that, and that's just not true. That's a myth. We know that is not true. It is through conversation that change happens. It is through conversation that healing happens. We can keep them safe. We can keep ourselves safe to reduce access to lethal items or places. And sit with someone in the darkness. Place your hand on their thigh if they're okay with touch. You don't have to talk, you don't have to have all the answers, but be there, listen, help them connect, call 988. We just talked a lot about 988. Stay connected. So how do we connect? Because we're not really taught to connect. They just put you all in these institutions, in these schools, you show up, you sit, you be quiet, you raise your hand to speak. This is kind of what we're ingrained in when you grow up here in America. But with the Maasai people, it starts and ends with the greeting. When they greet each other, they go a lot deeper than how are you and ask, like I said, how are the children? And they always affirm in the positive. So even if there's something negative going on, they think about how you can translate this into the positive and how it relates back to the kids. For example, let's think about how we connect. Hey girl, how's it going? You know, it's fine. What's up, bro? It's the equivalent to that, but it's a lot deeper. It's like, yeah, the cow died, but you know what? I'm gonna get another cow. My daughter broke her arm, but guess what? The left one is still working. She might be a little ambidextrous too, so you can utilize that. And just thinking about the positive, taking a strength-based approach, which is one of the therapeutic approaches that I utilize as a counselor, as a therapist. It's pulling out the strengths. And the Maasai people, it's so ingrained in their culture that they can already see the strength within themselves and the strength within you, and they can pull that out. And I'm not asking y'all to do that. I'm just asking y'all to connect on a deeper level. Because it tells a lot about how we are as a collective, the way that we talk to one another. And anyone who has suffered knows how it gives you a drive to say, if I can do something with my life, I will keep others from suffering in the same way. It is why I'm standing here before you telling you my story. It is why I started the Therapy Fund Foundation, a nonprofit organization that works toward eliminating barriers to healing for marginalized community members. It's why I have these talks about depression, because I know depression firsthand. I know grief firsthand. I know suicidal ideation, and I know some of you in this room know those things too. And I want to hold space for you and sit with you and let you know that you are not alone and there are resources. And when I tell my story, I'm often talking to young people like y'all, and so many young people come up to me after, jaw dropped, just in awe, like, I cannot believe you're someone suffering from depression, who has suffered or who has experienced suicidal ideation. They don't think someone like me has experienced that. And this really stood out to me because I'm like, well, what do you think depression looks like? What's it supposed to look like? This is me when I was younger. My siblings thought it was cute to tie me up. And I don't know if this is what people are thinking depression is supposed to look like. But who here can tell me what depression looks like? You can come up, there's a microphone. You can shout it out. Nobody knows? I can't see the hands, so y'all gotta come down. It's like bright lights in my face. Oh, I see a hand right here. Yes. That's really beautiful, perfectly said. Or are you gonna bring a mic over to her? I'm sorry, I don't, pronouns. She, her, they, she, her.
Thank you. Depression looks like just an everyday person, but they just struggle with more and they can't always express it. They have trouble expressing it. And sometimes when they do express it, they don't always get the responses they need or the help they need for that.
I need to bring you with me when I have these presentations. Anyone else?
Feels like hopeless and helplessness, like sitting in that suffering is the best thing you can possibly do.
Thank you. Honestly, this is what depression looks like. It looks like a therapist. Therapists can be depressed. I'm a therapist. It looks like a doctor. It looks like an engineer, an electrician, a plumber. It looks like you and I. It looks like students. It looks like teachers. It looks like educators. Depression shows up in so many forms. From a clinical standpoint, depression is loss of appetite, change in appetite, difficulty sleeping, fatigue, lack of energy, agitation, irritability, feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide, unexplained aches and pains. This is depression. And I have a short video, I'm gonna have y'all turn the lights down, that talks about depression.
Round and round and round you go. Down you fall.
It's over, depression. Do you know why you're here? This ain't a game.
I've been framed.
No, we got the right man. You would be in charge with the first-degree murder of millions of people, an infinite amount of agony, along with the pain and suffering of their families. You're the worst killer of all time. Just look at your crimes. You've taken more lives than Hitler and Stalin combined. What you have done is awful. You've been on a run, but you got sloppy, cocky. Now we finally caught you, Mr. Depression. Do you recognize this man? Look at him, damn it. This is Robin Williams. He was very well known. At approximately 11:45 a.m., August 11, 2014, he was found dead in his home. Cause of death was suicide, but that ain't true. It was not suicide, was it? It was you.
Got nothing on me.
We have a witness, and according to our medical examiner, Mr. Williams had antidepressants in his system. Laughter and joy was the reason for his existence, but you were his affliction. Now let's move on to your other victims. Mr. Anthony Bourdain. His life was about spreading good news and good food, but you made him insane. Marilyn Monroe, Mac Miller, Kurt Cobain. You sure do get around, huh? I mean, so many names.
Please, I'm not responsible for all of these.
Well, our forensics team matched your fingerprints at every scene. It says here you have a track record of robberies, but you don't rob people of their things. You take all they've got to give. You don't just kill people, you steal their will to live. We're gonna lock you up for all the evil things you did. You're not a mere identity thief. Yeah, you take identity, but you also take energy, memory, literally everything mentally, instantly flipped into crippling misery, viciously killing abilities, tricking your victims into defending your sickening, twisted criminal tendencies. Let me take it slow. You're a pathological liar, sir, a troll. 300 million face you each year. But you're so bold, you manage to convince each one that they're all alone. That's cold. You're gonna pay for your crimes. When people ask your victims how are they, you brainwash them and say, I'm fine. Is it so you can continue to hide behind lies disguised? And secretly assault and batter their mind? You love when people say, think positive, snap out of it, get over it, or cheer up. It's all in your head. But all of that is stupid. Like telling a dancer to cheer up by going dancing after they broke both of their legs. People can't just get over you. You're not just in their head. You're inside their whole body, making them feel dead. Some people confuse you with sad, but that ain't true. You and sad are like the difference between the sniffles and the flu, and that's facts. From anyone who's been around you, we get mad at alcoholics, but they're just trying to drown you. Your type of hate don't discriminate. Don't matter your height, weight, gay, straight, black, white, no one escapes. You attack sons, daughters, husbands, partners, doctors, lawyers. Doesn't matter where you live, and according to these charts, my God, you are now the leading cause of death in kids. You're a virus, a cancer. No, you're worse than cancer. You wear a shirt for cancer that says, I survived. But him seems like he never goes. He's always there lurking like a serpent, working to murder the soul. You don't remember me, do you? I mean, how could you? I was just a kid then, but you were so brutal. You tortured me for years. I believed your sick lies. Like eating acid, you destroyed me from the inside. I can't explain the pain of what it's like sleeping for 12 hours, waking up and still being drained. No, waking up wanting to die or go back to sleep, cause that's the only place where there seems to be peace. I didn't want to shower, didn't want to get dressed. It took too much energy to reply to a text. You drained my battery, kept me on 1% dying. And then you hit the charger in a place I couldn't find it. You made me feel worthless, like I had nothing to offer. And then I thought, maybe I'd be better off in a coffin. But deep down, I didn't want to end my life. I just didn't want to live my life. And then one night, I refused to take it any longer. So I studied you and discovered the chink in your armor. See, the things you kept me away from and repressed were the very things that would free me from your grip of death. You look nervous. Here, have a cigarette. Yeah, you love alcohol and cigs. You would never do a cleanse. You love the couch. You hate gyms. You hate going to nature. You hate hanging out with friends. Cause these are the things that help bring you to an end. The truth is, I do want revenge. But even with all of this evidence, we'll never lock you in a cage. We stop you in the real world when we say your name. We stop you when your victims are no longer shamed. We stop you when your victims are no longer blamed. And we raise the emotional IQ of the world and teach people of the many ways they can fight you. We don't have to despise you. Once we understand who you are, we can redefine you. That's when a light will shine through, and our greatest pain will become our greatest strength because we survived you. That's when a light will shine through, and our greatest pain becomes our greatest strength because we survived you. You.
Yeah, it sounds like when you really went inside, you found meaning through your pain, which is one of the most effective ways to overcome depression. Everyone, let's give Prince EA a round of applause. Yeah, great. Excellent.
We can survive depression. If you're experiencing depression, suicidal ideation, you can get through this. You know, we sometimes carry these masks with us that really mask and hide our depression, our anxiety, our fears, because we don't want anyone to know what we're going through. And oftentimes, because we think it's only us, we think we're alone. So we don't want to let people know, but we're not alone. This actually reminds me of a good friend of mine who's in high school, like y'all, looking for a job. Any of y'all have a job? Raise your hand. Somebody say, yup, got a job. I got a job. Everybody's hands should be up because we all got a job, whether it's being a student, showing up, doing good, getting good grades, doing the things that you need to do. But yeah, so he was in high school, is looking for a job, put in a bunch of applications. Whoever said, yep, back there, probably put in an application. Yeah, you did. I had to put in some applications for some jobs before. And so they're putting in dozens of applications and they're just struggling. They're not getting any callbacks. So when you're looking for a job, you know how that can kind of be very stressful. Especially when you want to work. Work gives us purpose. It gives us meaning. It gives us money. We can buy things with money. We can make change with money. But, so finally he gets a call back from the local zoo. He put his application into the zoo and they call him back and he's so excited. He's like, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. I'm eager, I'm willing, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to work. I just want to get out there. But what he didn't know is this is not a good zoo. Like, this is a horrible zoo. But you know, he just needed to work, so he shows up and they're like, okay, listen, the gorillas are really sick. But we can't let anybody know. We were just shut down in a pandemic, so the zoo's been closed the last couple years. They've lost a lot of money. And they don't want to lose any more money. Doors are finally open. You know, we got vaccinations, we got COVID tests, we're doing all the things that we can do to be safe and let people back into the zoo and to connect and to see the animals. I love animals. I love turtles. It's my favorite. Tortoises, all the things. But I digress. The gorillas are sick, and it's not funny, it's sad. But they're like, what we need you to do is put on this gorilla suit because we're not trying to get shut down again, and it's not even a pandemic. So he's like, listen, I'll put the suit on. I'll do what I gotta do. What y'all paying? So puts the suit on, and first he's really nervous. He's got this gorilla suit on, and he's like, are people gonna know I'm not really a gorilla? Are they gonna know? But, you know, kids are coming, they're taking pictures, they got their cameras, doing it for the gram, you know, posting it, TikTok, doing little dances with the gorillas. He's like, okay, they really think I'm a gorilla. And he gets way too into it. And he swings from the tire swing. I'm not about to act like a gorilla up here, that's what I'm not gonna do. But he swings from the tire swing into the lion's den. Doing way too much. And he starts freaking out. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm in here with the lion's den. He starts screaming, a human scream. Like, I don't think gorillas scream. So he's like, help, help, help. And as he's screaming, one of the lions starts approaching him and his scream gets even louder, help! And the kids are looking at him like, what is going on? I've never heard a gorilla scream. And the lion starts running, like, listen. The lion's running to him, and he's having a full-on panic attack, screaming, help, bloody murder. And as the lion gets close, the lion is like, if you don't shut up, we all gonna lose our jobs. Some of y'all got that. This is a totally made-up story, made it up, not true at all. But I tell you this story because things are not always what they seem. People are not always who they seem. You know, we carry these masks, and I need a couple volunteers to come up here with me. You know, we're gonna talk about masks. And then the blue, right here. Both of y'all. I need one more. Fingers moving with the spirit wave. Got you. Bringing it back to my bring it on. I said, what's underneath the mask? And so the mask, if you didn't hear, we've got anger, rage. What's your name?
I'm Colin.
Colin. Tim, depression. Matthew, no feelings. Emmanuel, anxiety. Finn, fear. And so I'm asking them, what is underneath these masks? And I heard a person.
Underneath the mask.
Could be like anybody really. Hi.
What'd you say? It's hot?
Yeah, sure.
That's because I'm hot. My hair's sweating out.
A person who isn't angry or depressed, well, not depressed, isn't angry or anxious, but it's the only way they can get those feelings out.
It's a part of them, but it's not. Is them. I don't know how to say it.
It's a part of them, but it
Part of
doesn't
them.
define who
It
they
does
are.
not define them.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
So, but what we see is what's on the outside. We don't see the person that's on the inside. We see the depression. We see the no feelings. I don't care about nothing, you know, it doesn't bother me, but deep down it does bother me. We see the fear, the rage. So fear, take your mask off. Anger, take your mask off. We all gonna take our mask off, collectively. What happens when we take our mask off? What happens?
It's easier to talk, I guess, when I have the mask off, and breathe in general, so yeah.
The real me is shown instead of what's masking it.
Yeah, the real me can show.
Feel like people can know who I am now.
Who knows the biggest thing that happens when you take the mask off? Maybe y'all know. Okay.
Breathe.
What's the biggest thing? Somebody said breathe. You can breathe. Help a friend, phone a friend. What do y'all think is the biggest thing that happens when you take your mask off? I see a hand back there. Your identity is revealed. Yes, people can see you. But you know the biggest thing about my lovely volunteers who came up here and removed their masks? Actually, I see a hand back there, red hoodie. Oh, no, you was just reaching? Okay, I can see that now. But the biggest thing that happens with my lovely volunteers when they take their mask is y'all can get the help that you need. That's that no feelings. I'm good, I'm good. Thank you. Brief little exercise. And so, if we don't take off our mask, we don't get help. But in order to get help, we also have to know where to go to get help. We can go to our teachers, our parents, our peers. We can call 988. We can talk to our doctor. We can talk to a therapist, the school counselor. I met the school psychologist when I came in this morning. These are our resources, the people that we can go to. Do you know what the leading cause of death for young people is? Call it out. Suicide. Driving accidents. Yes, it is accidents drugs kill. Just say no, kids. And so, what does that say? That tells you that the top 3 things that are killing our young people are what? Murder, homicides, but they are all preventable. We can prevent accidents, we can prevent homicides, we can prevent suicide. But we have to do all the things that we're talking about today. We have to have the conversation. One of my mentors, Randy Jensen, I have her book up here, and it's called Just Because You're Suicidal Doesn't Mean You're Crazy. And through her research, she actually identified that people first begin to start thinking about suicide from the age of 6. Babies are having these thoughts that they don't want to live, they don't want to be here. And when we talk about suicide, it's important to note that suicidal ideation is completely normal. It's a normal thing that many of us experience, but it's temporary. It is not permanent. You have to allow yourself to go through those feelings and get the help and the resources and the things that you need so that you can come out of it and you don't have to feel those feelings. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes it's weeks, months, years, but it is temporary. And sometimes there are things that will trigger those feelings and they'll come back up. And that's why it's important as a collective, Kasserian and Jared, Jumbo, to greet one another, to see each other on a deeper level, and to find out what it is that individuals are going through. Just last month, I spoke at a Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month that several people were at. Kevin Hines was the keynote. How many of you know who Kevin Hines is? Nobody. The people who were there. People who were there and heard him talk. But I bring up Kevin Hines because he is a suicide survivor who attempted to take his life at the Golden Gate Bridge, which is one of the top destinations that people go to end their life. And before he attempted to end his life, he said, if one person smiles at me, if one person greets me, Jumbo, how are you? If one person smiles at me, if one person sees the humanity in me that I cannot see for myself, I won't do it. This man caught the city bus. He walked around. The only person who spoke to him was a tourist who asked if he could take their photo. And so he jumped, right? Dang. He jumped, but he survived to tell a story. And I bring it up because I want you to see each other, to smile, and to know the importance of how you can save a life, how you can make a difference. Even if it's just calling 988, texting 988. Because I want you to be well. And when I say I want you to be well, what I'm saying is I want you to have all of the resources and the things that you need. Because we can't talk suicide prevention without talking housing, without talking proper access to mental health resources, to culturally responsive clinicians. I became a clinician because there was not one when I was your age who understood what I was going through as a black child in America who had just lost her grandmother, who was raising her. So I want you to be well. I want you to be safe. I want there to be a reduction of violence against yourself and against others. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be grateful. I want you to be in community and in connection with each other. And with that said, does anyone have any questions? We have a couple minutes before we wrap up here. See a hand. If you want to come and grab a mic or
the suicide prevention line is not on our school IDs anymore. And I'm just wondering why that is.
It's not on your school what?
Our school ID. It used to be on our school ID, but it's not anymore.
Can someone from the school speak to why it's not on the school ID? Oh. It's in the front. Does anybody got their school ID? We can verify, we can fact check. We're gonna find out today.
It is in the front. It's just like really small.
Very small. all, but we know 988.
We gotta look.
Now we know today. Y'all can tell a friend, phone a friend.
You guys said that
We can just bring it down just a tiny bit.
you provided a lot of resources for minorities or oppressed groups. What do you consider an oppressed group?
An oppressed group is someone from a marginalized community that has been historically oppressed and not included in the systems, whether it be the healthcare system, the education system, that's Black and brown people, that's the LGBTQ community, that's Muslims, that's disabled people, that's women, that's non-binary. I can go on and on about who is oppressed, but essentially it's people who have been left out of the dominant society to receive the basic things of life, our basic well-being. Like, it's literally written in our Constitution that we should have these things. And these communities, these individuals, have not been able to receive those resources and have not been able to receive the joys that everyone else in the dominant society has been able to receive. So when I'm talking marginalized communities and oppressed communities, I'm talking about LGBTQ, I'm talking about Black and brown communities, stuff like that.
Do you consider mixed people within that?
Absolutely. Mixed race, absolutely. My brother is half Black, half white. His father's white. We have the same mom. My brother, absolutely. And it is because of his mixed race that my brother experiences a lot of challenges. He's currently addicted to drugs right now. And it is a lot with how society receives him and how he's never been able to be a Black man or a white man. People ask me every day, what is your brother? They don't know. They think he's Samoan. He's human. But all of that impacts our mental health, our well-being, and I will tell you right now, my brother has experienced a lot of oppression being a mixed race person.
I really hope for a safe recovery for your brother.
Huh?
I hope your brother recovers safely.
Thank you. Me too. I pray for him every day.
Where do I put this?
Huh? Oh, whoever's next. And for any community that I left out, I apologize. It doesn't mean that they're not a marginalized community.
Just for future reference, what was the title of the video that you showed us?
The depression video or the DAP video?
The depression video.
I don't know the title of it. Let me see. Oh, this is not my computer. It's on YouTube. Let me see if it shows the name. I'll find out and I'll get it to Greg or Kirk or your administrators and have them send you the YouTube link because I don't know the name of it. And I'm a Mac person. I don't know what I'm doing with this computer. Anybody else have a question?
What did you do to handle your grief with your grandma? Because I recently had a cousin who just passed away, and I'm kind of having a hard time.
Thank you for sharing and sending you some hugs from afar and some good healing energy. What I did, I don't recommend that you do, but it shapes who I am and the work that I do. But I didn't tell anyone that I was hurting and that I was suffering. And I stayed depressed for a very long time in isolation. It was as an adult when I started learning resources and studying psychology and social work and the brain, to where I really started journaling. I tried to go to a therapist. My mom saw some of the signs and symptoms and realized that I wasn't doing well, and she sent me to the school counselor, but the school counselor didn't understand the role of grandmother in Black families and really dismissed what I was going through as it was just a normal cycle of life. My grandmother was extremely young. She was 62 years old when she passed away. But what I would encourage you is to not do what I did and stay in isolation, but do what you just did and share. You're having a hard time. It starts right there. So I want us to embrace you. What's your name?
I'm Luca.
Luca. We're gonna embrace you and surround you with support. You can journal, you can write, you can make a playlist, an uplifting playlist. What helps me, because while my grandmother passed away when I was 9, I'm 35 today, is there still will be things. I'll smell some of the food that she used to cook, or some of the songs, Aretha Franklin come on, and I'll hear it and I'll just start crying, and I'll do something that my grandmother used to do in her memory to acknowledge her and to really love up on her, even though she's not in the physical sense. So that's something that you can do. You can play the music that your loved one liked, eat the food that they liked, go for a walk, ground yourself. Indigenous people, how they healed is through grounding, walking barefoot on the soil. But most importantly, talking with one another, finding someone in your support system. I asked y'all, when you leave here, to look at your phones and look at the last 5 people you've texted or you've called. Are any of those 5 people in your call log or in your text history people you can reach out and say, hey, I'm really struggling? But I think just starting with journaling and what you just did right now, and we got you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we have time for, what time is it? Oh, we're supposed to stop at 10:20. But maybe one more, uno más, or no? There's a lot of hands, but I think we only have time for one more. I see a hand jumping up in the back, right there, the hoodie on. I think it's a hoodie. I can't tell.
Are you ever gonna, or as a therapist, there are obviously more diagnoses than just depression and anxiety. Do you cover those as well?
I do. I talk about bipolar, I talk about different personality disorders, I talk about schizophrenia. As I explained earlier, I specialize in racial trauma, so I look at the impact that racism has on our mental health, and I have a workshop called How Schizophrenia Became a Black Disease. And so I really break that down and explain how through bias and oppression, Black people in the 80s became predominantly diagnosed with schizophrenia with the same signs and symptoms that majority white men had but were diagnosed with bipolar. And it's a whole separate conversation, but yeah, I do. But I stay in my lane, so I like to stay to the things that I really know well and I can speak to, which is depression. But yeah, I do have a whole workshop on schizophrenia and other personality disorders. Nobody gonna stop me? We gonna keep going?
I mean, you have about 10 minutes, 15
Oh,
minutes
okay,
for
I
the
thought it was
bell ring.
10:20 because I see a lot of hands.
35?
So there was another hand in the back that was jumping up right there.
I know.
Yeah, the class. Here it is, right there, 35.
Any more?
Right there in the back was jumping up. And now everybody's gonna start jumping. I see what y'all are trying to do.
If someone felt like there was nothing they could really do to help with their depression, if they feel like they're just at the end of the road with their mental health, is there anything else they could do? They've called all the hotlines, seen multiple therapists, been to multiple psych wards, and there's just nothing else they could do. What other options are there?
There's always another option, and it's to know that it's not on them. You don't have to hold that, and it's not on you to get yourself through those dark spaces. It's to continue to show up, continue to go to therapy, and maybe try a different therapist. Therapy is like dating. You gotta find the right fit. I might not be the right therapist for you. So that doesn't mean give up on therapy. What it means is you need to try somebody else, have a different conversation, try a different therapeutic model. A lot of clinicians are really focused on CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. We can look at your thoughts, your behaviors, all those different things. DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. It may mean, if I can speak, that you need to seek a different type of therapeutic model, maybe EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, if it's a trauma or something that you've gone through that's causing the depression. And it's not on you as a child, as a young person in high school to figure this out. It's for the people around you. But you can speak up and you can advocate for yourself and say, hey, this isn't working, so we could try a different approach. Maybe brain spotting, different things. And I don't expect you to know brain spotting or EMDR or know these different models, narrative therapy, role play. There's a whole list. There's over 100 different therapeutic models, but so many people tend to stay in a box of just CBT, DBT. And so you can advocate for yourself and say, I'd like to try something else. I heard a therapist speak at my school today, and she mentioned that there were over 100 different techniques. Maybe you can pair me up with someone else. And sometimes we get in relationship with people, our therapists, and we don't want to hurt their feelings, and we like them as a person, but you're not getting to where you need. And it's not about you liking the person, it's about you getting where you need to be in your wellness and in your journey, and just stick with it. It does take, I spent my entire childhood depressed. Never thought that I would be on a stage talking to any of y'all because I did not want to live every waking hour. But as a Black person in America, I could not say that. We were just supposed to pray. Pray about it. That's what we do in my community. So I don't want you to have to spend the amount of time that I spent on my healing journey, but just know you will get there, I promise you.
How can I work on, like, some people with depression struggle really hard with mood swings, and I don't know how to help with my mood swings. Is there anything that you would recommend?
To help with mood swings, having a routine, having a really good routine in place will help you navigate and self-regulate yourself so that you don't have to get in a disarray or whatever it is, how your mood may impact you, whether you'll be depressed or angry. If you have a good routine and you know this is what's happening, you're going to class at this time, you're doing X, Y, and Z, and incorporating some movement, going up for some walks, working out, it creates endorphins. Paying attention to what you're eating. There's a really good book called Potatoes, Not Prozac, and it breaks down how the food can really impact our overall mental health and well-being. But again, sticking to a routine, eating 3 meals a day, having proper sleep. So a routine can help you regulate your mood swings.
Last one.
So what do you do if I'm recovering from anorexia, and what do you do if eating and everything else just makes you feel worse than you did when, like, you were at your sickest? What do you do about that?
That's something that you don't want to go through alone. I would encourage you to talk with a clinician and really delve into those feelings and how those feelings are associated with the food. With my skill sets, I would look at some of the different therapeutic models that I'm trained in, but I don't want to say that because I don't know who you're working with or what your prescribed method of healing and getting through that is, but I would let you know that right now it's not something you should be doing alone, and you should be talking with a professional to help you navigate that so that you can eat and it doesn't feel gross.
All the professionals I've talked to just say it'll pass in a few months, it'll pass when you gain all the weight back, but I've been like this for years and it's getting better very slowly.
So tell them that, and hearing that isn't helping me. And we can say that. My clients, I give them the open space to be able to speak up and advocate. It's like, hearing that is not doing well for me because it's not changing, and I need to focus on the present where I'm feeling these feelings and have them help you navigate those feelings that you're feeling now, because what they're doing is focusing on the future and trying to get you to focus on future feelings. That's not where you are right now. So you need somebody to help you navigate the present.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all. It's been real.